Hey, it's the right Rican, and today I'm gonna show a little video here from Rand Paul grilling Dr. Fauci. Now, I'm not a doctor. I've taken biology classes and whatever, so just like any layperson, I do have a basic understanding of some of this stuff. Um, but like I said, I'm not a doctor. But I remember some of the stuff that was going on during the pandemic. I remember when uh, the talk was the whole talk was about Sweden, and Sweden was going for herd immunity, and there's no vaccine at the time. So the whole idea of going for herd immunity was for healthy people to get it and survive from it, and have some sort of natural immunity from it, and basically putting into lockdown people who were vulnerable, uh to for it to have a worse reaction to it. So people who might die or be hospitalized, those were the people that were locking down. Those are the people that were quarantined, but everybody else was allowed to go about their daily lives. Now, here's the problem: if you were going to go and if we're going to go and if you're going to encourage vaccination, it's for us to get back to normal. It's not for us to go, okay, vaccine, but you still got a double mask. Come on. It's like, let's be realistic. Now, yeah, I'm just going to play a little bit of this video so you can see um, someone who is a doctor. Now they're going to, knock it because he's an ophthalmologist, but, he's still a doctor. So here I'm going to show the video of Rand Paul grilling Dr. Fauci.
Reports of significant numbers of reinfections after acquiring COVID 19 naturally. Shane Crawley, a virologist at La Jolla Institute for Immunology, concludes from his experiments that the amount of immune memory gained from natural infection would likely prevent the vast majority of people from getting hospitalized disease, severe disease for many years. In this study, which was published in Science, Dr. Crody showed that antibody levels stayed relatively constant with only modest declines over 6 to 8 months. Dr. Crotty reported that notably memory B cells specific for the spike protein or RBD were detected in almost all COVID 19 cases with no apparent half life at 5 to 8 months after infection. In other words, Dr. Crotty found significant evidence of long term immunity after COVID infection. Furthermore, Dr. Cruddy noted B cell memory to some other infections has been observed for as long as 60 plus years after smallpox vaccination, or even non.
So if you could see here, what Rand Paul is talking about, there's a study that's showing that, you know, that there is some sort of vaccination. There's some sort of immunity once you get it. That's normal. It's not something that's it's something that's normal to humans. Um, so excuse me for 1 second. I gotta um uh, I have to pause this for one. Sorry about that. Uh, Little hiccup there. Let's go back to the video. What I wanted. This is the most important thing that he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about someone who was. Anyway, let me put it there for you to.
Natural infection with influenza. That was a woman who got the Spanish flu, still showed immunity 90 years later. So,
So I just want to show that there. It's like, yes, all viruses are different, but you're talking about someone, and there's so many variants of the flu. But meanwhile, you're talking about someone who still had some sort of some sort of immunity, so to speak, to the flu. Doesn't mean that that she would never get it. It just means that not as severe. And that's the whole thing with these vaccines. Also, is that people got to understand. Is still, is there a chance that you could get it? Yes. The whole thing is you may not get it as severe. So anyway, here we go.
Rather than being pessimistic towards people gaining immunity after they've had COVID or had a vaccine, studies argue for significant optimism. In fact, there have been no scientific studies arguing or proving that infection with COVID does not create immunity. There have been no studies showing significant numbers of reinfections. Of the 30 million Americans who have had COVID, only a handful of reinfections have been discovered. In fact,
So that's a good thing, because I mean, I know so many people who were like, were freaked out, and that was something that the numbers never showed. That they'd be like, oh well, there's a case of someone getting reinfected, and and it's like, there's not it is not many cases of reinfection. It's not something that's uh being reported widespread. But the fear porn of the media, where it's like, okay, well, let's what can we what can we scare them with today? Let's scare them with, well, if you got it once, you could still get it again. And anyway, let me keep going here.
Times reported last fall, more than 38 million people at the time worldwide had been infected with the coronavirus, and as of that date, fewer than 5 of these cases had been confirmed by scientists to be reinfections. Scientists interviewed for the article concluded, in most cases, a second bout with the virus produced milder symptoms or none at all. Given that no scientific studies have shown significant numbers of reinfections of patients previously infected or previously vaccinated, what specific studies do you cite to argue that the public should be wearing masks well into 2022?
Before he answers this, this is the whole thing. It's like, um, if you've had it, if you had the vaccine, which honestly, really, you really don't need both. I mean, they're saying, but whatever. The whole thing about herd immunity was to reach a point that you need a critical mass. You basically need um, a certain amount of people to either get vaccinated or a certain amount of people to catch the disease and survive. You don't need I know Fauci one time was talking about, we need 90% vaccination. No, that's BS. You need, let's say, 50, 40% vaccination and like 35% um, um, surviving the disease, getting a natural immunity. So, let's say that'd be 75% of the population. That might be the critical mass you need, because the other 25% of the population, maybe uh, they can't get the vaccine for whatever reason. Like, my son had a reaction. My son had reactions to vaccines. So, so he can't get all his shots. So that's something that you have to, you have to be aware of, either if you're someone who is not, doesn't plan on getting the vaccine, or someone who caught it. you know there are people who can't get it. So I'm not going to sit here and judge people one way or the other, because to each their own. I'm not gonna If you don't want to get it because you don't trust vaccines. Like I said, I have my son who is, got reaction, and I've spaced out my daughters, and she's good. But that's not here or there. Let's just keep going. Let's see Fauci's response to Rand Paul's question.
I'm not sure I understand the connection of what you're saying about masks and reinfection. We're talking about people who have never been infected before.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
You had
not.
the vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let's get down to the facts. Okay, the studies that you quote from Crotty and Sete look at in vitro examination of memory immunity, which in their paper they specifically say this does not necessarily pertain to the actual protection. It's in vitro.
And what study can you point to that shows significant reinfection? There are no studies that show
Just
significant
let me finish the response to your question, if you please. The other thing is that when you talk about reinfection and you don't keep in the concept of variants, that's an entirely different ballgame. That's a good reason for a mask. In the South African study conducted by J&J, they found that people who were infected with wild type and were exposed to the variant in South Africa, the 351, it was as if they had never been infected before. They had no protection. So when you talk about reinfection, you've got to make sure you're talking about wild type. I agree with you that you very likely would have protection from wild type for at least 6 months if you're infected. But we in our country now have variants that are circulating.
Significant reinfection. What study shows significant reinfection, hospitalization, and death after either natural infection or the vaccine? It doesn't exist. There is no evidence that there are significant reinfections after vaccine. In fact, I don't think we have a hospitalization in the United States after the 2-week period after the second vaccination.
Yeah,
So here, I want to, I want you to see, you see how Fauci's a weasel. I mean, he's not really, instead of, saying, well, there are no studies that are showing reinfection, he's attacking, right away, he's attacking the study that Rand Paul is talking about. Sorry, I always want to say Ron Paul, his father, but, this is, I mean, like I said, this is where Fauci's a hack to me. I mean, how he still has a job, I don't know. He goes, let's see the way the wind is blowing. Okay, what I'm gonna 2 mask. Will they go for it? Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. No, there's no evidence. Well, it's not gonna hurt. Yeah, I think they bought it. Okay, it's safe to keep going with that one. And it's ridiculous. How many masks did they tell us that we're gonna wear? That's, like I said. Anyway, let's just keep going. I'm gonna, because I'll rant forever at the end.
In the United States.
You're not hearing what I'm saying about variants. We're talking about wild type versus variants.
And what proof is there that there are significant reinfections with hospitalizations and death from the variants? None in our country. Zero.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet. We're having one. Can I finish? We're having 117 that's becoming more dominant.
Policy based on conjecture.
No,
it
isn't based on conjecture.
Variants, so you want people to wear a mask for another couple years.
No,
you've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No,
you can't get it again. There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask who've been vaccinated.
No.
Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people being vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. You want people to get the.
I want to pause it there because. I mean, seriously, it's like that's exactly the point. If you want people to get back to normal, if that's what you really want, then you would tell people, once you get vaccinated, once you get the second shot, we could go about our daily business. Don't need a mask. Don't, because you should be protected against if someone has it, and you should be protected from from if someone has it to get it. And so. And I find this funny. I want to talk about this after the video's over. I mean, after they finish their exchange, where they talk about the South African variant. I'm going to touch on that for a second.
Vaccine, give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective, And we
You have
ask
immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others.
Senator
You're
Paul,
not
out
wearing a
time, and
mask
I
because
would
of any
like Dr.
sign.
Fauci
I
to
totally disagree with you.
Dr. Fauci, if you could respond so that we could understand.
Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna say I definitely agree with Rand, because to me, that's it's theater. It's theater. If you're gonna, if you've been infected and recovered and got the vaccine, there's no reason to be, like between him uh and Biden. Biden kills me when he's talking, when he's there talking on having a speech with the mask on, like, come on, guy, everyone around you's tested, you've been vaccinated, probably everybody around you's been vaccinated, so there's no point in you having the mask other than the fact that let's see, you want to pretend that, you want to be able to hide the fact of your mental capacity. But anyways, what I said was I was going to go back to the circle back to the South African variant. It's kind of funny where, here we taught that, with what happened yesterday with or the other day with uh the guy who shot up the massage parlors. Now they want to talk about you're talking about Asian hate crime and all this, and it's because of Trump and the whole him wanting to call it the Chinese virus or the Kung flu. Kung flu is funny as hell though. But but it's okay to call it, let's say call it the European variant or the South African variant. That's okay, but prior to any of these SARS diseases, because that's the whole thing, all these SARS uh, diseases, because that's what COVID. Remember, COVID is it was a SARS COVID 2 or something like that. I think that's like the long name, technical scientific name for it. These are the only ones that have aren't you know China's the one that pushed for these diseases to be stopped calling after where they're found, because all the other diseases we know of, West Nile, Ebola, um, Lyme disease, and all that stuff. These are stuff that they were named after where they were found. And we're calling it the South African variant. It was first found in South Africa. There's nothing racist about that, but that's what we get. That's where we at now. Even a virus is racist, and you know they don't. They want us in crisis mode. This is where I'm gonna go a little, maybe get a little out there for some people, but we're in crisis mode, and the people in the government, not all the people, but there's people in the government that want power. There's people in the government that like control, and they want us in crisis to be able to use their power to control us. And that's what their hunger is for. Is their hunger and their desire is not to help the people, but it's for the power and the control. And we gave it to them. We gave it to them freely. We didn't, we didn't fight. We didn't kick and scream. Some of us did, but a lot of people just sat down and took it. So you're going to blame them for trying to push this. They're going to try to push this to the next election. They're going to push this to 20. They're going to try to push this to the midterms. That's where they're going to try to take it all the way to the midterms. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try to push it all the way to the next election, just to keep it in there. Because like Emmanuel was I forget what it forget his first name, but Emmanuel, when he said, don't let a crisis go to waste, and it's true. That's what they're doing right now. So I'm gonna leave it right there. Please, if you like, give me a like. Follow my channel, either on Rumble or YouTube. I upload it onto both. Um, and leave me some comments. I appreciate it. And have a good one.